Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing?
Yo.
Hello. I caught your show yesterday, I assume it was. Maybe it was even in the middle of the night. I forget. Only a few hours ago, right? With
and a misidentification of me originally, because it was back in the days when it was my first observation, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know exactly how to get this stuff done, and my position changed after it because I realised I wasn't looking at what I thought I was. But Dazza basically told all of his subs in front of Sean and holding each other's willies that I was lying about something, and I was like, no, I wasn't lying about something. I was just doing what I thought was right at the time. Anyway, time went by and they persisted with this particular point. And when I saw that this other bloke had gone and done the same observation that I did, it dawned on me that this really proves that I was doing exactly what I said I was doing when I got these footages, because this guy's got the same footage. And it dawned on me that Dazza was lying. And last night he was trying to say he wasn't lying, because he said that his position is that he thinks this based on this evidence. And I'm like, right, but look at the bigger picture overall. All of this evidence is not supporting your... And I even said to him, I'll give you all your points. Why can't we deal with the point that's in hand, which is we can see this stuff much further away than we should? I'd like to know why. And I don't know, he's labouring this point, and I'm happy to concede it. It doesn't change the fact that the Earth doesn't seem to be a sphere the way that we're told it does. And I'm happy to concede it, but it's being dwelled on based on a misidentification originally. And I mean, even if I'm prepared to concede everything, I just want him to address why it doesn't appear to be spherical.
Hey, Travis.
Pardon?
I said hello, Travis. Hello. What? No sound. So yeah, I completely agree, Anthony. He's taken an incorrect assertion that you made when you first went out to make these observations, and you thought you'd caught the tower, and you hadn't. Oh, got a bit of feedback, Anthony. Can you turn your speakers down? So you've misidentified whatever it may be, a crane, an oil rig, whatever the hell. It doesn't matter. You've thought you've seen something that you haven't. Misidentified it, and then every part of his argument from there on in was based on your misidentification, which you corrected, and early on in the discussion he conceded. But then he used that as the actual tower and moved you further up the beach. It's like, well, that only works if you take it as read that that is the tower, and it's been conceded right at the beginning that it isn't. You know, yeah, you made a mistake. You conceded it very early on. This is literally now years ago. It just makes no sense that he would want to continue to misrepresent you in such a fashion, well, and ultimately not address the point, which is that you can see the tower, right?
Yeah, it's just trying. What happens is if you say a sentence, right, and 90% of the words were right, but you mispronounce or you use the wrong context or the wrong word or whatever, then they use that mistake, that minor mistake in the bigger scheme of things, to discredit your whole sentence because you got one part of it was a little bit wrong. Look, I'm not perfect. I know I make mistakes. And when I do make a mistake, if it's a big enough one, I'll encourage people to throw rotten tomatoes at me because I deserve it, right? You learn. However, if you make a mistake and then correct it because you realize that you were actually wrong, which is what happened with myself, then that's really should be the end of it. Now, but Daz has persisted with this claim, and when I saw this other guy's video and it basically supported and reaffirmed my own original claim, my original position, I was like, this is just devastating for the ballers. Anyway, yeah, so we had that hangout, but it was very much impromptu, and I've not even titled it on my channel. I just wanted to hear what his responses were, and it's kind of historic now, but it just, in the bigger picture, in the bigger scheme of things, this guy's new video basically reasserts my original claim: Blackpool Tower should not and could not be seen from Hoylake the way that we do actually see it if it were actually a ball. So I'm trying to get around to 1000 and come back and repeat the Hoylake observation that I did.
Good morning, guys.
Like, hey, chocolate.
For me, like solid. What?
Yeah, so I think that would be great if I don't know how willing Ranty is at the moment. He seems to have a bit of a strop on for some reason. I haven't actually figured that out. I haven't spoken to him. But for whatever reason, hopefully he's going to be willing to go and repeat some of this observation with the better camera, including the Hoylake one, hopefully the Isle of Man as well. Got my Isle of Man t-shirt on today.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think he's got a grump on because Chris MCM's got a wrench in my chat, and I only give him the wrench so that he doesn't get hidden immediately, because Ranty's trigger happy.
Why wouldn't you hide him immediately?
Yeah. So, but I tell you what was interesting last night. Chocolate, are you there? Chocolate?
Yeah, I'm here. I mean, I'm at work, so I mute. What's up?
Did you hear Kosho's point about sign and cosign with the circle last night? And if you did you think that his point was legitimate, or was he trying to bullshit me with Mac to make him sound intelligent?
Listen, I don't know what to tell you about that, man. Like, yeah, I see that he was trying to make a point. I just don't see how his point actually correlated to what we were talking about.
That was
he showed us a diagram and said the sign and this moves, and it's like, how does that relate to how much of the sun that we're going to see? Like, what you're showing us is a diagram, you know? So I don't know. It didn't really make much sense to me. But then I'm not a mathematician, so but I tend to agree. It just sounded like bullshit to me.
Hey Mark, how you doing? Here's Mark.
Hello, gentlemen. You all right?
Very well.
Mark, what's up, man?
Everything's well. There's a lot of noise in the background. Where's that coming from?
That's me. I'm at work, so I'll mute.
Oh, right. Okay, that's fine. I thought it may have been me.
Nah, I flat earth at work, so.
Right.
So
good man.
All day.
Yeah, so just for those that didn't hear about it last night, Kosho and I were having a conversation about what happens at new moon. And basically the moon does go missing out of the sky for like around 3 days for everybody. No one sees it anywhere at any time. And my position is that we should start seeing light pretty much right after the moment when it transits across the sun or near to the sun and starts its new cycle. But for some reason, we only get to see, apparently we only get to see the thinnest of crescents, and it's too dull for us to see it because of the ambient light around it and the glare from the sun. And there was some evidence presented to support the position. But Kosho made what I perceived to be a flippant remark to do with sine and cosine. And when he said it, I thought, he sounds to me like he's trying to, not bamboozle, trying to one-up, big himself up, like self-glorify himself with these...
clever. Trying to sound clever.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to call him on this to see if he understands the point he's just made, because I wanted to see, did he actually understand it? Because I'll be honest, I didn't understand it. I wanted to know what that meant, what he said. And he said something like words to the effect of, yeah, if you use the sine and the cosine and then do the maths, you can work it out. And I was like, what does that even mean in this context? Now, I thought that he might not know what he was talking about and that he might have been trying to make himself sound clever. So he had about 4 attempts of trying to explain this thing, and words, he was speaking and words were coming out, but there was no coherent sentence that came out. So I asked Hillel Finder if he would be able to explain or translate what was being said, and he was dead reluctant to do it. And then in the end, we managed to find out what sine and cosine meant, and we tried to apply it, and it really didn't apply. But Jeremy started arguing in Kosho's favor because the concept of sine and cosine is mathematical, right? It is a thing. And once Jeremy saw how the mechanism of sine and cosine worked inside a circle, inside the dimensions of a circle, Jeremy then started to argue a different point, which was that this mathematics does work. We've got a working model on screen right now, right before your very eyes. And I'm like, yeah, but how does this apply to the moon? And when we were trying to apply it, it just didn't apply, because we're trying to work out how the light, how long should it stay dark for whilst it's transiting the sun or at new moon phase. And basically my position is, as it disappears one side, it should start reappearing the other side, because only 50% of the sun, the moon, can be lit up at any one time by the other side. And that was what we were arguing about. But because Jeremy had spotted how the mechanics of it worked, he started to side with Kosho. And then I realized that this was 2v1, and then it became 3v1 the minute Hillel found an angle that he was able to present something.
That's where I came back. So I heard the original misrepresentation that you kind of called, but basically admitted that you didn't understand the terms. And when I came back, this was the point that I came back to. So they all started backing each other on this bullshit. And you were at a point where there was 4 of them backing him just because he's on the same side as them. But he's completely wrong. It doesn't apply. And you're holding them all to account. It was brilliant. You're batting them all off, all 4 of them at once. It was great.
So I'm trying to speak to the audience and say, right, guys, you can interpret this any way you wish. You've got Kosho making sine and cosine comments. And if you think that applies, then you're entitled to think that. I think it's nonsense. And we've got Jeremy, and we've now got Hillel Finder that are now supporting him on this utter nonsense rather than letting him take a pasting. And literally, it's because they'll never concede any points ever. They just don't do it. And it was completely irrelevant. It wasn't accurate citation for the sine and cosine. So next time we see Kosho, instead of calling him Kosho, let's call him cosine.
Hello, cosine.
So bad. It is funny, though.
Yeah, you've got a good show going on, Anthony. I really enjoyed it. I must admit, I didn't watch all of it, but it's nice to have...
Correct me if I'm wrong, Riley, but didn't at one point Hillel Finder even say that he understood what Kosho was trying to do, even though he was kind of doing it wrong? Am I mistaken at that point, or about that?
I understand what he's making, but whether or not that's correct or not, I'm not sure. But when I asked specifically to address this point, I said, Hillel, are you there? And he ignored me, but he wasn't on mute. I said, Hillel, and he went, yeah. And I said, is this being used in the correct context at all or not? And there was a silence, and he didn't want to answer it because I think the answer was no. But I don't think he wanted to answer it, so he kept quiet. So I dragged him into the conversation to try and, because I didn't know. I wanted to know whether or not this was applicable at all. And I thought, he sounds like he's bamboozling me. Let's see whether he actually knows it himself. And my position is still, he doesn't know what he was talking about. He was trying to sound intelligent. And when he got called on it, he couldn't explain it. And neither could the other 3. But they found a really bizarre interpretation where they could possibly get some element into this. And then they started backing him on it. And I was like, yeah, I see what's going on here. And I'm pretty sure the audience saw it too. But basically, there was no application. Yeah. He found a weasel way of getting in somehow with some perverse interpretation. And then 3v1 ensued.
Yeah, it did sound like Hillel was a little hesitant to explain Kosho's point. Like, he backed him up, but kind of hesitantly, you know? Like, I see what he's saying, but he's not actually right about it, but I'm going to back him up anyway because he's on my side. I mean, that was my interpretation of it. But because I was really trying to understand what Kosho was saying, but it just, to me, it doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me why the moon disappears for 3 days. Doesn't tell me why. And they also said something about how at new moon the phases become slower. Like, what's going on at new moon that the phases all of a sudden, the percentage of the sun that's showing its face slows down or something? Like, what's that about?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. Nathan, if you present the screen, I'll present this evidence that's contrary to my position, but I'm going to present it anyway to make the point that this doesn't seem, in my opinion, it doesn't seem to make any logical sense. Are we on, Nath?
Yeah, no worries. I mean, sorry, I put Mark on accidentally. Right, yes, perfect.
So basically, this is an animation of the moon, right, orbiting the Earth. Now, what it's showing here is obviously the sun's off to the left, and when the Earth gets in the way of the moon, it should actually be a lunar eclipse, right? But it's showing a full moon. So obviously we have to infer from this that it must be on the ecliptic path of the sun, otherwise the ecliptic path of the moon, otherwise it would be a lunar eclipse. But the interesting part is, as it comes around here and it gets towards the sun, I'll play this in slow motion, hopefully, so it's so we get, yeah, I can maximize how perverse this looks. My position is the view from Earth, as it disappears on one side, because the sun can only light up 50% at any time. It can't light up 55 or 45. It's 50%. Literally, as one side starts disappearing from the Earth's view, it should start coming back in on the other side. So as it disperses on this side now, it drops down to the point, and then boosh, it should start coming back in immediately, because you can only light up 50% at any one time. Look at the length of time it's taking, right? Which is what happens in real world, but it's not coming back in. So it's like, why is it? This makes no logical sense, right? And I might be wrong, but for me, it seems that it should disappear on one side, but at the same time start reappearing on the other side, because it only lights up 50% of the Earth. So it's the time it takes. And look at how much travel it travels. I mean, what are we at here? It's fading off now. It's fading off now. This is at 10 o'clock, right? So we're getting towards kind of 9:30, right? So it's now at 9. It's now at 9 o'clock, and it's going to come round to like 8:30. But all the time it's getting an angle, right? It should be appearing, but it's coming round to 8:30. Now it's getting about to 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. So it's about 8 o'clock, and then you start getting the crescent back. Now this is what it does real world, but that geometrically I struggle with it, because I'm like, it should disappear on one side but re-emerge on the other side as it's doing it, because of the 50% rule. So maybe I've got this wrong, but it just seems to me that for 3 days we're not seeing enough of the moon to justify it being there. It's like it should do it immediately, but apparently on their model it's okay. And I'm like, I can't get my head around this.
We don't live on a model. You're still feeding back.
Oh, it's because I've got that up a little bit high. Okay, yeah. Should be okay now.
We shall see. Probably not. No, that's okay. Just about. If I'm quiet. Anyway, excellent. Yes, indeed. The heliocentric model makes absolutely no sense.
Mark wants to share something.
So was that for me, was it?
Your line is up.
I missed that. Say it again.
It looked like you were lining something up to show us to do with a boat.
Yeah, it's something that we've all seen many times, but I just had a nice day last week watching the Stena Line go out from Belfast Lock. That's all I've got to show, but it's typical of what we've already seen, isn't it?
Oh, so this is Ranty's Stena Line from the opposite angle then, right?
No, Ranty's Stena Line's going to Dublin, Dunleary. This is the Stena Line going from Belfast, Scotland. They've got more than one ship.
No, fair enough. I did not know that. I'm not a ferry traveller. So Stena Line's a big company with loads of ships, and this isn't Ranty's. Fine. But it's got the same effect with the Stena Line inverted underneath at the diffraction limit. Nice.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Just let me turn my phone off. Hang on.
Hello, Mike Doxy.
We appear to have that.
The white strip in the background is the oil pipeline that goes into Kilroot power station. It's predominantly coal-fired, but they can also bring in oil. Now, I know for a fact that oil line, which is behind the ship, is 10 miles from where I was looking at. But you just get that lovely mirage of Stena Line reversing.
Yeah,
I can watch this ship go at... Sorry, go ahead.
Ranty calls these fake waves. You know, like if you look at the composition of the top line of the waves, they kind of stop. They don't stop in a way that is like a curve that stops. That's clearly a wave. They just seem to stop like mid curve. Ranty calls them fake waves.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You would expect it to just go so tiny that it would be imperceptible, but that sort of line jumps up and down. And if you look at something behind it, though, it's jumping up and down in perspective really high. If you look at something in the background. But yeah, the fake waves.
You agree that the mirroring thing is blocking the actual height of the water, right? Because we can see the reflection of the boat underneath it. Do you agree?
Yeah,
that
I don't think that was the point Mark was making. Can I just try and paraphrase what you're saying, Mark, and see if I'm correct? You're saying that the limited angle to the boat, which is in the near foreground, is lower, i.e. if you look at the fold line, you would see that it lines up with the inferior mirage of the pipeline above. So in the distance, obviously the land is continuing beyond this boat. Clearly, there's a pipeline that's further away. But the line that gives you the hard horizon and the comparison to the fold line on the boat and the fold line on the pipeline are in two completely different positions, which to me suggests, like Ranty's double Earth curve, do you remember that one? It's saying that the limited angle is variant all the way up to the distance that you can see. So you've still got a limitation on the angle to the bottom of the boat in the near foreground, but as you look further out, higher stuff gets miraged down into its limited angle further away. Am I right, or is that not what you were saying?
All I can say is we can't trust anything on the horizon.
Yeah. You can't even trust where the horizon is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the horizon is... That's why I really wanted you to watch that video yesterday. So I think Life is Sweet, the guy's called, or Life is Short. I've forgotten his name. I'm really sorry. He did a really, really good video. And he's got kudos from everyone. Jaren, Red Pill, you name it. They're all watching this fairly substantive video that explains that what we're calling the horizon is just the diffraction limit of whatever you're looking at. The point where the ground meets the sky is an optical effect created by your eye. Now, if you're looking at this with no zoom, the limit of your eye would mean that the horizon was in a totally different place, right? You force the horizon out as you increase your aperture. It's all to do with what your eye creates. So in terms of saying you can't trust the horizon, you can't trust it as a physical thing, leading edge of a sphere. It isn't. It's the diffraction limit of your eye. So it was laid out really nicely in that guy's video. I'll have to dig it out on the Nathan Oakley channel, Nathan Oakley 1980 channel as well. I'll put a link to his video so everyone can check it out. I won't do it on this live stream because this just goes dead after we finish live streaming. But I will put it in both of the re-ups on the two main channels. So I'll dig out that person's video. Anthony, I've sent it to you already. Dedicate the time to watching it. It is an exceptional explanation for things like the horizon and the diffraction limit and how it works. Now, I understood this to a degree before. I would say to people, this is happening at the camera end. In other words, the diffraction limit isn't something that you would see occurring out in the distance and is affected by atmosphere in the slightest. It categorically isn't, because it's happening at your eye or at the camera, and it's based on the aperture and all the things we've discussed before. That is the horizon.
Right, okay. The horizon is where the ground apparently reaches the sky, but for different viewers and different are you removing atmosphere completely out of it?
Yes, Nathan? Absolutely. You can, what you will see in terms of where that diffraction limit occurs, based on the height of the sea, which might limit your angle more, your elevation, there's a whole bunch of different things that will affect it. Obviously, it's about the angle, but also the clarity of the day will also affect how far you can see. So the atmosphere unequivocally does come into it, but in terms of what you see as the apparent position where the sky meets the ground doesn't change even if you're in a 10-foot room. You've still got the same effect happening, and it's your eye that creates the midpoint. And when you look out into the distance over water, the limitation of the atmosphere will cause you to, in some days, not see this boat, right? Well, that's the atmosphere. But when you can see it, the effect of this mirage underneath is, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to go out on a limb, 100% down to the diffraction limit. There's no atmosphere blocking our view. We can see as low as the boat as you would expect, and it's in that limited angle. That's why you will have this consistent effect on the horizontal always. It's not a little bit around the boat because of a bit of atmosphere around the boat. It's consistent on the horizontal always through everything. You look back on the Isle of Man composite, that line runs through the entire image at the horizon with an inferior mirage below it. And it is, I'm going to go out on a limb again, 100%. It is the diffraction limit. That is what you are seeing, and it is what creates the horizon.
Okay, there's something I've been trying to work out is on a dull day, if we're to say that the horizon is where the land meets the sky, well, on a really dull day in Belfast, the horizon is only maybe half a mile away from you, because there's no variation in the colour of the sky. Do you know what I mean? You understand that?
I
On a really foggy day. On a really foggy day,
head saying the same thing, Mark, would be that the sky never meets the ground, does it?
No, but apparently on a dull day, the sky is the same colour as the mist in front of you. And so if you wanted to say that the horizon is where the sky meets the ground, sometimes the sky on a foggy day is meeting the ground just a few feet away from you. Now, on a clear day, the atmosphere still has some sort of fog effect. That's the reason why we can't see New York from Donegal. So again, the horizon is being falsified, or you can't define where it is because of the atmosphere is like a soup, and it gets thicker the further away you're looking.
I agree. The atmosphere will absolutely compound your visibility by virtue of the stuff, the debris, whatever, and you can have that conversely giving you a clearer day if there's less in the air. But it doesn't change that what limits you from seeing New York from Portugal isn't the atmosphere, it's the angular limitation.
I need to get my head around that one.
It is also the atmosphere, because that limits how far you can see.
No, I would say no. Yeah, yes, predominantly it's going to be atmosphere, and if you're looking 30 to 100 miles, you can bring that into the equation. Beyond that, no, it is never going to be seen. It doesn't matter if you had infinite clarity. It is ipso facto too small to see.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just too far away. Doesn't matter how much atmosphere you have there, or lack of atmosphere. It's just too far. It's too small. It's simple.
Nathan, I have to give a little bit of credit to a baller. You know, the guy that goes by the name of Nick with Noel.
Just before you do, sorry, Anthony, cut you off straight away.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice pictures and excellent examples of the diffraction limit. Thank you very much, Mark.
It's not a problem. I'm still taking photographs.
All right, Anthony, you
cool.
go ahead.
So Nick with Noel. I currently have Nick with Noel blocked because I see him as literally a troll. Anyway, he joined yesterday for a chat, and he said something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, I've been wanting to speak to you about that," and we discussed a particular point. But then we had a disagreement over a point that he said, which was that correlation is causation if the error, how did he word it now? If the level of error was low enough, it could be considered causation. So I said, can I have a citation for that? And in the end, he couldn't find one, and admitted he couldn't find one. And we actually got a concession. I think it's probably one of the rare occasions where we've had a concession. And when he did it, I was like, oh my God, he's actually made a concession there. And it's probably one of my first times when I've actually had a baller actually say, I might have that wrong there. And he conceded it. And it was a lovely conversation. And it actually surprised me with how good he was able to communicate. Yet when you see him in chat, he's ridiculous. So on the one hand, he's really bad in chat, but on the other hand, he was a gentleman yesterday. And I was gobsmacked that he made a concession, because it doesn't normally happen. And then we had Emerald, who then brought up a citation. We were talking about what was it now? I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was a challenged point, and I asked him to bring a citation.
It was something about science delving into ideas as opposed to cause and effect.
Yeah, that's what it was. The point was made that science does prove cause and effect relationships, and he was arguing that science only disproves stuff. So he brought up a citation that said science tries to discuss or disprove ideas. And I said, that's not supporting your position, because we're not talking about ideas. We're talking about causes and effects, not ideas. And he wouldn't concede it. And I was like, oh, really? So we just had Nick with Noel that did actually concede and say, yeah, maybe that wasn't quite right. And he does. He literally he's talking about it in chat now with Ute. Basically, he said, yeah, correlation is not actually causation. It does imply it, but it doesn't prove it, and that's the difference between correlation and causation. But yeah, I was gobsmacked. So shout out to Nick with Noel.
Yeah, I'll back that up. Nick was actually cool yesterday on that hangout. Conceded and everything. It was cool. Sorry about the noise.
The concession being that correlation is not causation.
Yeah, his statement was originally that correlation can be causation in science if the error factor was below a certain point. Now, normally anything with less than 5% of statistical significance will be rejected because it's too remote. But I don't know, he didn't quantify it, but he said if the error risk is below a certain point, that could be considered causation. But it was challenged, and he went and got a citation, and then realized that he couldn't. Well, he didn't get a citation. He tried to find one, he couldn't find one, and then he accepted that correlation implies only causation. It doesn't prove causation. And I tried to use the example where if you have a cockerel crowing in the morning, if the sun rises 10 minutes after the cock crows, then if you would correlate the cock crowing and the rise of the sun. But obviously, if we all know that the cock crowing doesn't cause the sun to rise, apparently it's some Earth spin. That's what they say. But anyway, so you can correlate the cockerel crowing with sunrise, but it isn't the cause, even though it does correlate. And I think when I made that point, I think it became, I think it was cleared up. Yeah, and he said, yeah, correlation is not causation. I was gobsmacked.
Yeah, if you've got like 95% of the babies in the Western world being born in hospitals, does that mean that correlation is the cause of babies? Of course not. It's just a correlation with a high level of consistency, like cockerel crowing in the morning and then the sun rising. Correlation is most certainly not causation. To establish causation, you'd use science.
It's cum hoc ergo propter hoc.
I love Latin. Go on, give us the full.
Is that
That's no, it's not. That's the name of the fallacy of causation does not imply.
Oh, really?
I forgot.
What?
Yeah. It's cum hoc ergo propter hoc. It means
cum hoc ergo propter hoc. Is that right? Cum hoc ergo propter hoc.
Yeah, it means because of this, therefore this. It's all about circular reasoning and correlate, like the cock crows, the sun shone, therefore the cock caused the sun to shine. Because of this, therefore this.
I see. It's the begging the question part of the formal logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. It's the first half. Cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So
it's just it sounds like if P then Q.
Exactly. It's if P. Precisely, chocolate. Well said. It's if P then Q.
Yeah, or circular reason. They sort of blend together in this slightly different flavors of the whole thing.
Apparently,
and then there's the post hoc.
Yeah, Hyena's saying in chat, wrong. It's the post hoc ergo propter hoc. Sounds like a name of a helicopter.
No, there's a difference. Cum hoc ergo propter hoc is where you continually. Oh,
we've lost you.
Is he back?
Right, are we still on? Are we?
Yeah. We just lost your audio.
Everybody's talking like a robot.
I think that's just your end. Carry on. Give us the difference between.
Right, there's two of them. There's post hoc ergo propter hoc, and there's cum hoc ergo propter hoc. Now, if it's something continually that you continually believe in, that's cum hoc. Whereas post hoc is when you're looking at something in the past and say, this is what caused that. Post after hoc.
Ah, right.
Why do you know this one? So hold on. So the post hoc version would be the looking at something that happened in the past. So for the sake of argument, you could say we have a molten iron core because Thea smashed into the Earth 1 million years ago.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. Something caused something else in the past, but there may not be any correlation between the two. Something else might have done it.
Let me apply John's analogy. He says, thinking of a busty blonde and getting a stiffy on doesn't mean you're going to get shagged. Is that right?
Not exactly, but it's close enough for
No,
humorous
it's
sake.
no, it's not. It's what caused what. An event happens and something follows it. Well, is there a connection, or could something else possibly have caused it?
Right.
And it's your Q scenario as well.
It's me saying the babies always seem to come out of that building there. So the cause of the babies is in that building.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Now that would be a continual one. So we would call that cum hoc. But if we're talking about one event in the past, it's post hoc. Now I might be wrong. Somebody might come and say, "Oh no, you got it all wrong."
Right. Why do you know this, Mark? I've never even heard of this.
Mark's well up on his logical fallacies.
Anthony, you once mentioned post hoc about maybe a year ago. You were talking to Nathan, and you may have just read it that particular day, and you made a reference to it.
All right, I don't remember.
I've just got a lot of time on my hands, and I read up about logical fallacies.
But the problem, Mark, is that we go through this stuff with Anthony, and he falls asleep, and the stuff goes in like hypnotic tapes, and then he'll parrot it without even knowing where he's got it from.
It's a bit like that. A bit like that Horizon. It's not very.
I thought that Hangout was the one where I fell asleep with you and Chris in it. Do you remember that one?
I do remember. I remember you falling asleep.
Snoring as well.
That was basically the birth of all of our best arguments, right? Where they started to coalesce into what is now housekeeping. That was the pinnacle moment. You know, I'm stuttering because it's like, to me, it's an important event. You know, John introduces himself, goes through some of the arguments that he's got. We explain how we understand them and where they can be expanded. We add to his arsenal, then find out that he's already got them in his arsenal. But it's all discussed and exposed, and it's literally the first encounter. And Anthony falls asleep.
It wasn't my finest hour, I'll be honest, but I suppose if you can't fall asleep amongst friends, who can you fall asleep with?
If you're watching this on the re-up on Nathan Oakley channel, it's on this Nathan Oakley channel. If you're watching it on Nathan Oakley 1980, it's on the second channel, which is obviously Nathan Oakley, and that's called something like New Unseen QE Footage Flat Earth Debate, something like that. Anyway.
Ute says, Nick thinks he's poking fun at Flat Earth, but he's wrong when it comes down to it. He used to admit speed changes should be the correct answer, but now denies it. A regression. Yeah. I'm not sure what that reference is, but we do see regressions coming and going.
What's that link to, Mark? Sorry, Anthony.
Mark, that reminds me. Do you remember when we had the discussion about up and down relative? And I know you're not going to want to get into this, but I want to read to you something about Einstein's. You know, Einstein replaced his gravity with replaced Newtonian gravity with his own relative position.
Okay.
Did you see the show yesterday?
Which show?
This one, Nathan's show yesterday.
I think I did, yeah. But yeah.
All right, so I'll have to show you the page because I want to read from it. It's fantastic. I love it, and I can't believe I didn't spot it before. I was just rereading through it on the show yesterday. It's this Scientific American document. We all know that I've read from it loads of times. It's Snap Wanded 2, showing that it's the curvature of space-time and not some magical wand of force or whatever that causes mass to attract mass or whatever it was he said. But listen to how beautiful this sentence or this paragraph is written, because it does two things. Aside from being fantastic in how it's written, it's fantastic in how it's written. It also quantifies the force or the effect of this curving space-time nonsense that's supposed to be gravity. And I was contrasting it to what's it called? Position, Newton's position, which Cavendish quantified to be 50 million to 1. But listen to I'll read the whole paragraph because it's beautiful. But in reference to the down bit, just pay attention to the down bit. But it says, The morphing of space and time is not just the stuff of exotic physics. It governs the motion of any falling object. Baseballs, wine glasses, expensive smartphones, things that slip out of your hand accelerate to the floor because Earth's mass warps time. This is the bit that I was thinking about you. Down is defined by the direction in which time passes more slowly, not towards the center of mass of the Earth, or not the opposite of up or whatever, because obviously we've had conversations in the past. According to Einstein, in relation to gravity, down is defined in the direction in which time passes more slowly. So when we were talking about it, obviously me and you had disagreements on up and down. But if Einstein's gravity is the current at science, really down is the direction in which time passes more slowly. So in my context with you, me and you chatting about it, and however we disagreed on it, according to science, according to Einstein, down is a direction, but it's in which time passes more slowly. So when you drop your mobile phone out your hand, or mic drop, your mic's not going down, it's going into the direction where time passes more slowly. So I just wanted to let you know that, because I think it's brilliant. But listen to this as well. In human terms, listen to this. This is the best bit. In human terms, the deviations are small. Parts in a trillion at most, compared to Cavendish, which was 50 million to 1. This is trillions into 1, which is 12 noughts, right? But enough to account for the rate at which falling objects pick up speed. Really? When you see an apple fall from a tree, get this, this is the best bit. When you see an apple fall from the tree, you are watching it roll across the contours of time. How beautiful is that?
It's a load of nonsense.
It is. It's
That's what I said.
garbage.
Hey, Arwin. How you doing?
Or if you listen to Brian Cox, he's telling you that it's actually the Earth moving up to meet the apple while it stays in midair after it falls off the branch.
That is a complete contradiction. You're right. Contradicts.
It's ridiculous. And isn't that the Flat Earth Society nonsense? So that's your guy. That's your guy, Brian Cox, saying the Earth moves up to meet the apple, guys. So have fun with that.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Hey, Zinda. How you doing?
Zinda, Arwin, are you guys watching?
What again?
We haven't heard
Well,
from
you're
Arwin. That's all, Zinda. Good to have you, though.
Hi everyone. Anthony, you said 1 in trillion, or what did you say about Einstein?
His words are, quote, the deviations are small, parts in a trillion at most. So it didn't say how many parts in a trillion, but the fact that there's 12 noughts on the end of it compared to 50 million, which has only got 6 noughts, it's just nonsense. But apparently that's enough to account for the rate at which falling objects pick up speed. So when you see an apple fall from a tree, you are watching it roll across the contours of time.
So,
Hey,
so what did he?
Sorry, 1 second, Zinda. Hey, Flat Earth.
Good morning.
So-
Good morning. Sorry, Zinda, you go ahead.
So what did he mean by that? Like, the farther away you go from Earth, the faster time passes, right? In the relative in the theory from Einstein, because I think
he says that if you go, he says the warping of space only plays right down is defined. Right, clocks at sea level tick more slowly than clocks on the summit of Denali. Now, if that's true, I'm going to say that integer, that differential, is going to be more than parts in a trillion. But he claims that a watch strapped to your ankle will, the clocks at sea level tick more slowly than clocks on the summit of Denali. And he's putting that down to the contours of time.
why would you claim the numbers aren't accurate in the theory itself? I mean, I'm not saying
accurate.
they have to be real.
I'm saying they're too remote and fantasy-based for them to be credible.
Yeah, they make. I mean, mathematically, they probably make sense, right? But of course, we would have to prove it, and it is hard to prove the general and general relativity to other people in our position. So no, I think
I honestly think that what happened was they started getting scales that were measuring rates that were getting towards a million.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Mark, you got to mute.
Hold on. Somebody's got their mic open, and I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm going to suggest perhaps that maybe they were getting more accurate scales, that instead of being to 6 decimal places or whatever, 7 decimal places, maybe they were getting a little bit too accurate, so they had to move the goalposts far enough back that they'd have to get scales that would measure in trillionths. And that seems to me what they were doing. I mean, I'm just spitballing, but I just think that maybe they were getting close to being able to show a 50 millionth of an object's weight, therefore satisfying.
No, that's not what they're doing. This is all mathematical. Did you not watch the video that Jaren did?
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to
not showing anything.
They're
They're not showing a thing. This is done through the transform equations. It's not demonstrating or showing or quantifying any trillionth or 50 millionth or anything. It's purely mathematical. Hello, Alan.
Yeah.
Tony, stop stepping out of line. Get back in order.
What do you mean?
He left.
He's just heckling you because I'm telling you off.
Oh, right. Sorry.
So, I mean, they say they have to account for time dilation, in terms of satellites, right? And I think it is due to that 1 in trillion, whatever you just said before. And when you scale it up to the distance satellites supposedly are, then they calculate everything with the theory of relativity, and then they have everything right in their model, which I kind of believe, but I don't have evidence for it.
Yeah, believe is the key word, and I noticed that you contrast that by saying you don't have evidence for it.
Yeah, because I think that satellite telephones are real and they use satellites, for example. But I don't have evidence for that, so it could be something else. It could be a million balloons like flying around in the sky or whatever, right? I don't know. So it doesn't really matter in the end.
Excellent. Well, nice to hear it.
I came here to show you guys a picture, and it is really a disturbing picture. So maybe you should wait with sharing it to the audience. If anyone who doesn't want to get like their eyes completely burned by the picture,
you're not going to get on camera, are you?
Should look away. I will.
This is going to be a joke.
Not
I can
today.
sense it in your voice. This is going to be a joke. I can tell already.
Not today.
You're going to put a picture of a sphere on or something, can't you?
Look what I've seen here. Have you seen my picture? What I've seen when I went to work today.
Globe Garden childcare.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
It is so
sorry, hold on,
disturbing.
Cinder. I can't see it at this distance. It's too small on the icon. Is it tame enough for me to present to the audience, Anthony?
Yeah, it's fine.
Fine. Okay, sorry, Zinder. It's on screen for the audience now.
No problem. And it is so disturbing. I mean, they push the globe on children that don't even go to school now, right? Those children are maybe like 2 to 3 years old that visit the place, and it's already called Globe Garden Childcare. I mean, that we have to do something about it, right? We have to like burn the place down once the children are gone out of the building.
That seems pretty extreme, Zinder, but thank you very much.
No problem. I just wanted to know if you guys are as upset as I am about it.
Zinder, you're feeling in a mood today, Zinder? You want to burn things down? What's the matter with you, man?
Some kind of jab? Some kind of jab at me? Think it's funny what I went through yesterday, Zinder?
What did you go through yesterday? I don't know.
Arwen, I think you might be being paranoid.
What did you go through, Arwen?
Oh, check it out. That almost diffused it really quickly, but you've heightened his intrigue, Arwen.
It's just weird. Like, why burning things down? It's so extreme.
Can we keep it PG? Keep it PG, please. I beg you.
PG, what?
Parental guidance. Keep it family friendly.
Right. Well, yesterday was not the parental guidance kind of a Flat Earth early bird. That's for sure. Today was. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Hi, Owen.
But yeah, no, radical extreme solutions rarely are solutions.
But yeah, desperation.
I don't think Zinder was aiming that at you.
I have no idea.
I have no proof of that, but I don't think he was aiming
maybe
at you.
it's weird. Maybe it's just the other side talking through everyone else again, or whatever. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah,
Hey, Owen, mate.
I-
Yesterday, right, I saw a guy display a lot of humanity. Subsequently, I've seen a lot of other people in response to that display the complete opposite.
Hey, Unorthodox, how you doing?
Totally agree with that, Adam.
Hello.
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 I think in 6 months' time, Arwin, you'll probably still stand by your words and your feelings and feel no embarrassment for the bit of life you went through, mate. But
I don't.
I watched. Yeah, let me finish. I'm not criticising you, pal. I'm making comment on other people's reaction, and I think when they look back at their videos in 6 months' time, there'll be a lot more learning for them to do than what you went through yesterday, mate. Respect for you to share that with people as well.
Thank you.
Also, didn't you do nicely out of it with all the adverts you got?
Oh yeah, my God. Yeah. Yeah, Google must have sensed a trigger point and pump in the advertisement. Nothing gets more advertisement than people triggered.
Are you getting nutty as a tactic, or is this genuine? Were you really upset?
Yeah, that was real. As I explained, even while it was going, it was creeping up to me. It had been piling up my shoulders for a week, and I didn't even really know what it was going to be. And the day before, I said it. I didn't even know. I said it like, something's coming. I don't know what it is, but I hope we can all live with it, basically. That's what I said the day before. And then that night, it all hit me, and it came out yesterday. It was just going through that valley, the swing of the pendulum, and that was there. And now I'm getting out of it again, and I already feel a lot better than I do yesterday. So. But that was absolutely real.
You know what's awesome, Arwen, is that it's the next day, you feel better, you're here, you're not hiding, cowering in a corner somewhere. You're doing what you do.
Right.
You got up, you had a show. Obviously, you had a great guest, Constance. Shout out to Constance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're good money, brother. Don't worry about the haters. The haters are gonna hate. That's what they do. That's what they do best.
Yeah, the haters
so
are
who
gonna
cares
hate.
about
the
them?
Creepers are gonna creep.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi,
What's up,
guys.
Alan?
Can we talk about me? I've just been to
No.
the shop and purchased an egg custard, and there's no nutmeg on the top.
Unless I'm getting my ice cream or something, I don't know why we're talking.
Alan, you need to go back and burn the shop down.
What, and stab him in the face?
No, just burn the shop down. That's what Zinda suggested before.
I don't like warm custard though, Tony.
Should we call you Alan or should we call you Jeff?
My name's Alan.
Not when you first joined, it wasn't.
Maybe
What
not.
do you mean? Have I missed something then?
So I'll ask again. Should we call you Jeff or Alan?
Alan.
But why when you first introduced yourself to us as Jeff?
No, I'm not Jeff.
But I'll repeat it. You first introduced yourself to us as Jeff.
No.
Today?
Yes,
We
on
keep a
today's
bit
show.
mutton,
If you want to
Jeff.
confirm this, Alan's just said no. I'll just give him another opportunity to deny it. Go ahead, Alan.
No. No.
You didn't introduce yourself as Jeff. Today's
No.
show on the second channel, Nathan
No.
Oakley. Today's uploaded, premiered show has Alan's first arrival on the show. It is unequivocally Alan. There is no doubt about it. He introduces himself as Jeff.
No.
We
Right,
know.
can we just double check this? I never heard this. Did anybody else hear him introduce himself as Jeff?
Not yesterday, on a show from about a year ago, the first appearance of Alan, he introduces himself as Jeff.
No, not me. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely you.
Definitely not me.
Okay?
What
People
show
can check
number
it
was
out.
Nathan?
It was only uploaded 2 hours ago.
Nathan, what show is it? Let's get it up and we'll see it.
It's the show from 2 hours ago. I'm going to round this live show out in a few moments, so my kid needs some attention. But You feel free to check it out in the audience. It's today's upload. Okay, I know you're getting impatient. You can tell it's coming to the end, can't you? Yes, it's about break time.
Don't stab her.
Okay, yes.
Don't set fire to her either.
Don't set fire to her.
Don't listen to Zinder with suggestions.
He's mean.
Were you a lawyer, Anthony, once, or do you have any experience in it?
Yeah, that was a swapping conversation. You
No,
went
just because of burning down things. Just wanted to ask you really quick.
Burning down things came from you, not from me. Let's not.
I mean, when I burn the place down, I need someone who defends me in front of court, right? So, would you, if I pay you something, would you accept the honor to defend me?
Depends on what you were
Why
charged
would
with.
we defend somebody that's openly declaring they're going to commit a crime?
Well, I mean, you guys are flat earthers. You fight against every odd. I mean, so right, that like
Zinder, that doesn't mean going and burning down schools, brother. I think you got that a little bit twisted.
Damn it.
Good try. Sorry.
Well, I tried. Right.
Yeah, I know.
I think you might have missed the difference between anarchy and like no rules, because there's what you're describing is no rules and lawlessness.
Well, I'm not saying
anarchy.
I'm not saying you guys have to burn the building down. I just was asking if you could like defend
Hold on, that's
me,
not
right?
anarchy. Is Mark still on the panel?
All right.
Still here,
Yes,
Mark?
I'm sorry.
I recommend just a peaceful protest.
So what was the purpose of the question, Nathan?
I thought that was my cue for hopefully Mark to give an explanation of what anarchy actually is.
Oh, right. Anarchy just means no rulers. But it gets a bad rap when people think anarchy means total chaos, and it doesn't. We have
Yeah, it
chaos
doesn't mean
even
that.
with rulers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hate the misrepresentation.
Yeah, we have chaos even with government. So anarchy would actually be a better option. Give it a chance.
Nathan, what was the show number that you're on about?
It doesn't actually have a number. It's just today's upload on the second channel. So it literally only went out. If you go to the second channel, Nathan space Oakley, you'll see it as the most recent upload from today. Alan's first appearance.
Get it open, play it.
I'm gonna do it.
This is such an odd. You're saying
Wow,
you have video
you're really
evidence
loud.
that
Wow.
of this, so this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Well,
So
hopefully
the
that's,
most recent one, and I'll just do a scroll through and see if I can find it on the.
Well, we're coming
Jeff
up to
here.
the hour mark, as I say, so it is going to be my opportunity to round out at least this section of the show. So I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you're watching this live, stay tuned as the next show will follow in a few minutes' time. To all of the audience in Nathan Oakley 1980 and Nathan Oakley, I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Yes, it is.
Was
I
it
noticed
really?
that the other day.
Was it
You're
really
all talking
chocolate?
like this. And I was like, what the hell's wrong, Alan?
Was it really
Right,
Choco?
boys. Right, boys and girls. Let's see the moment of.
Choco, you don't sound black.
No, I'm chocolate Asian. No.
I know.
Are you Blasian?
I'm Blasian, yeah.
Okay.
Chocolate Iglesias.
Introduction. Let's hear it. Nathan, are you going to share screen?
I just want to know if this Jeff, we can find out if this Jeff bloke makes any references to confectionery. You're nailed, Alan.
Please don't mention flapjack.
Well, have a nice day, guys. Real life is calling. Have fun. Bye.
Cool.
There's Ender. Don't be doing anything crazy next week, man.
Nathan, are you sharing me or what?
I'm not. No, I'm tending to my kid.
All right,
This is what I have the 5-minute break for. Although we are still actually live on just so you're aware, we are still live because it's like to a fairly limited audience and it's going to be turned off after. But just in case you fancy slagging somebody off, this is a good opportunity.
Oh no, he's still live.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Octans, because they're all very faint stars, and fundamentally, I had numerous emails back and forth, back and
forth.
How
you doing, Jeff? How you doing? Can you hear us?
All right.
Good to have you. How you doing?
Thanks.
Jeff, are you a baller or a flat earther?
I'm what they call somebody who studies something called the absurd side of things. Lily. Not me.
Hey, Jeff.
Lily with his opening line.
Oh, so this is kind of funny because Alan B's kind of doing what you guys, denying the blatantly obvious.
No, that's not me.
Yeah, it is you, Alan.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
So you're just a liar. Just a liar.
It's not.
Of course it is.
Alan B, come on, man.
I heard
That's the audience in a moment.
I'm a flip flop here. I don't think that was Alan B. That's no.
Play it again. Do it again.
Turn it up a bit, Tony.
Nonsense assertion before. All right, this is an email. The subject says Octan's inquiry to the Astronomical Society of Tasmania. And essentially, I'm asking him, does he have any evidence to show what Octans looks like? The constellation known as Octans. Because they're all very faint stars. And fundamentally, I had numerous emails back and forth, back and forth.
How you doing, Jeff? How you doing? Can you hear us?
All right.
Good to have you. How you doing?
Thanks.
Jeff, are you a baller or a flat earther?
I'm what they call somebody who studies something called the absurd side of things. Lily.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Unorthodox, Adam Meakin, The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Mark Doxy, Chocolate Sayin, Arwin, and Jeff. How are you all doing?
Not Jeff. Alan.
Good.
Alan B, aka Jeff.
What's up, Choco? My trousers are a bit tight.
Hey, Jeff.
Anyway, let's talk about the flat Earth. And
Excellent
But wait
idea.
a minute, Alan B, you really gonna deny that was you?
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. We've got to keep house. We haven't kept house today. Any signs of
Choco, I
curvature,
can confirm
gentlemen?
my name is not Jeff.
Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
Who?
Any signs of curvature?
Nope.
Soundly's new video.
Oh,
You guys saw that, right?
Nope. Tell us all about it.
Why would any of us see Soundly's new video? Come on.
Well, he had some guy GPS position the bridge, and they mapped it all out, and CAD software did three-dimensional points and overlaid that with the pictures that you guys said are fake. So they have two different corroborating pieces of evidence showing that it actually is curved.
Yeah, so satellite GPS works on WGS84, a geoid overlay that sits on top of. It's a bit like a sheet or a cloth that you put on top of a table. But if you put that tablecloth that's on a flat table, and if you put it on something that's ever so slightly curved, your table now is curved according to the tablecloth. But if you map that GPS stuff out, you can put it over any shape you want, and you believe it's any shape you want because it'll always comply to the shape. In other words, it proves nothing.
No.
I don't think you believe that, Tony.
No, if you put... Right, so I guess you didn't understand the point I made then, guys. If you're going to put a tablecloth...
We just don't think you believe it.
Then your tablecloth will tell you, if you pinpoint all these dots in it and like a Hessian sack over it and all the grid lines and all that, it'll be flat. But then that same flat table, you can wrap around an ever so slightly gradient, like we'll call a ball. But if you tell it that it's flat, that overlay will always present itself as flat because that's what you've programmed it to do, and that's all GPS does. It's an overlay.
That table got a tuft of trees on it?
Nah.
Tippy tops?
Nah.
I still don't know what you're talking about. So what's he actually showing?
Any ice creams?
Who said ice cream?
Curvature.
Soundly, you didn't see his video? He did a live stream the other day where he, like I said, he mapped out the bridge with 3-dimensional points in space, and then they made a map of that in CAD, and they lined it up perfectly with his pictures to show that the pictures weren't.
Are there any ends?
Warped anyway.
He's extremely skilled, Soundly, isn't he?
Just tell me what was you saying? You can see Earth curve in it. I haven't heard any Earth curve bits. I've heard mapping it in CAD and mapping what? What are we actually looking at? What are you talking about?
I would figure that was implied. I mean, I guess maybe for the people that are watching who don't know, Soundly is famous for having photographed the curvature of the Earth using Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, which is like 26 miles long over a spread of water in Louisiana.
Pontchartrain Causeway. No, that's an effective perspective. The bridge rises up to the horizon and then goes into the diffraction limit.
It goes down. It doesn't rise up. It goes up and then down.
That's what I just said.
The apparent curved part is extremely small. If you would take that as literal curvature, you'd end up with, a planet the size of, I don't know, a very small planet.
Planet Orleans.
Yeah.
And Nathan's
right. Now, I looked at that because it is kind of interesting. If you do the math and you show the curvature in that picture and you know how many miles the causeway is, that's not true. It works out perfectly. It works out to about 3,999 miles or so. It's not perfect, but it's close to what the given radius of the Earth is. If you actually do the math and you construct a circle using the known distance from one end of the lake to the other end of the lake on the bridge, it matches up to what the Earth's radius is. So that's not true. It doesn't imply that the Earth is smaller than it is.
The thing you see in those pictures, that length, okay, that's way too curved. You can't.
26 miles.
It's not about the official length of the lake. That's not what you see as curved in the picture. You don't see it from the beginning to the end curved. Now you see that one part of the bridge that is very, very apparently curved, and that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's gone up to the horizon and into the diffraction limit. So you see the bridge rising up to the level of the eye of the observer in the near foreground. Then it reaches the diffraction limit and then drops behind from bottom first. Now, if you're going to assert that the mathematics demonstrate perfectly that it works on a sphere, I will immediately assert that you don't take into account any of the angular sizes of any of the stuff you're measuring when you use that mathematics. You only account for actual sizes of things. So when you're calculating out how much it's dropped over a curve, you haven't taken into account the angular size change at distance.
How would I account for that? What are some non-mathematics? Are you aware of any kind of mathematics you could show us
how you account for it?
Account for that?
I don't care how your bullshit maths accounts for this. I don't care. It's not my assertion. Your moron assertion using moron maths that excludes perspective says it matches a ball when you presuppose a ball. Wowee. Number one, we don't live on a model. Number 2, you're presupposing we live on a ball. That's a begging the question fallacy. Number 3, what he's actually observing is the effects of perspective. The thing rises up to the midpoint of the camera. That's perspective, ignored entirely in your maths. Don't ask me how to correct your crap maths that doesn't work and doesn't match reality or include perspective, because that's not my problem, Sunshine. That's your problem as a globe zealot that believes the maths is right, even though it excludes all angular relationships with each other.
I don't think you could argue that this one's a presupposition, Nathan.
You just said it works on the model.
It's there, right?
You just said it works on the model, Dick Brain. You just said it works on the model. Have you got proof of R?
I mean, if you want me to do some... Okay, so if you want me to do some... If I come here with some calculations that show that bridge...
Answer my question. You said
properly.
It works on the model. So, the model's based on R. Have you got proof of that?
The picture is the proof.
The picture like you compared to a model. Your comparison and proof required the mathematics and model that you assert we bloody live on. Reification fallacy. We don't live on a model, and you're saying that because your model does something, that makes it real. I'm pointing out the very fatal flaw. It excludes angular relationships. The change in angle at distance is not accounted for. So your maths, whether or not it matches, is irrelevant. Number 1, we don't live on a model. Number 2, it excludes perspective. In fact, it hijacks it. It calls the effect, like soundly does, of things rising up to the midpoint of the camera and then going into a diffraction limit. It calls that curve, right? No. The thing it's ignoring is what it's hijacking and calling curvature, unorthodox.
Unorthodox, ask him to explain diffraction limit.
How about that, Nathan? Can we get a diffraction limit?
Do you realize why this soundly thing is really silly? Because at 120,000 feet, there's no curvature seen. You realize that, right? So your little 16.
What do you mean there's no curvature seen? You can see a curve in the picture or the videos. I mean, you guys can at least say it's something else, but you can see curve. It's a monument to the Earth's curvature.
Sorry, I've seen footage of Earth 120,000 feet with no curvature. So you can take a little 20-mile cylinder Earth and go somewhere with it, bro. It's ridiculous that you people think that Soundly is showing actual curvature. It's ridiculous.
I wouldn't say that's ridiculous at all. I mean, that's pretty... I mean, at face value, that's what it looks like. So that's not a ridiculous notion at all.
That's what it looks like, so that's what it is.
Yeah, so at face value...
According to your logic, yes. Flat earther logic. You love things you can see. It's directly observable.
It's not directly observable. You're comparing it to a model.
Remove.
I don't have to compare it to a model to see it curve, man.
No, I'll say it for the 3rd time. Pray God we have silence while he listens. He probably won't, but let's hope he does. You have the effect of perspective. It rises up to the midpoint of the camera because you are looking down the length of it. That is an effect that is ignored in the model you use to assert that that effect, the effect of things rising up to the midpoint by virtue of perspective, is ignored in your globe mathematics.
No, that's exactly why the 3-dimensional GPS mapping works, because you don't have refraction, because it's just plotting points in space.
Sorry, what the bloody hell straw man is this? Nobody mentioned refraction, so let's just get rid of this straw man straight away. Not refraction. Try to pay attention. Perspective.
Regardless.
Oh, you couldn't pay attention for long enough for me to say one word. Perspective.
I love that that's the one word.
That's what's happening. That's why the bridge rises up. Not Earth curve. It's not curving up. It's rising up to the midpoint of the camera by virtue of perspective. That's what happens when you look at something.
Yeah, I say he dunked on you guys. You should take a look at the live stream. About an hour long. If anybody really wants to know the shape of the Earth, look at Soundly's live stream.
Yeah, I went into that live stream when he was doing it with his mate, with his telescope. And I went in and went, nice effect of perspective in the chat room. Triggered everybody. Because they don't want to hear it.
You know, you're up for an award, Nathan. I saw something where you and Nathan from America, you guys are up for some awards on.
Sorry, I couldn't give a crap. I couldn't give a crap. Soundly is showing the effects of perspective, something that is ignored when you assert it matches a model.
No, that's what the model does. It removes all doubt in terms of, is it perspective, is it refraction?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
No, I won't let that hang out there. Number one, it does not deal in perspective terms. It ignores all angular relationships. Number two, it does not deal with refraction. It deals with terrestrial refraction, a begging the question fallacy on steroids, where you not only assume that you have a radius, you assume light bends around at 7/6 of that radius. So no, it does not deal with refraction. That's a very real effect that we can all observe and is definitely not being accounted for in your model. It's 7/6R, terrestrial refraction, something we don't observe that's made up mathematically. It also, the model, assumes R, so you've got a two-step begging the question fallacy.
We're just talking about simply plotting points in a three-dimensional space. You can't talk about perspective when you're talking about plotting points in a three-dimensional space.
So what? We don't live in that model.
Constructing a circle.
We're not. We're looking at things. We're looking at a picture of a bridge going up to the midpoint of the camera. You are then modelling it because you have a reification fallacy disorder, and you have to model it so that you can assert that's where you live. I don't live on your model or in your 3D CAD program. The picture we're talking about rises up to the midpoint of the camera. That's something that perspective does. You seem to ignore it and laugh when I say one word. Perspective. Yes, that's what's happening. It's ignored in the maths when you assert that a model matches, even though we don't live on a model.
Yeah, you don't need a perspective to draw a circle.
We're not drawing anything. We're looking at a picture of a bridge in a photograph. What is your malfunction? You bought a picture.
I'm talking about him mapping it out.
You bought this up. We're on the first housekeeping question. You bought this up. You bought this up. This is your evidence of curvature. A picture of a bridge. Not drawing any circles, Muppet. So, your picture of a bridge is perspective based. That's what perspective does. If you want to deny that things rise up to the midpoint of a camera because of perspective, that's fine. You can deny it. It makes you a moron, but that's fact what happens. Now, your maths for your model ignores that.
No, you're strawmanning me here. I'm not saying that we're talking about the picture.
We're not talking about soundly
mapping out.
No worries, let's just get it clear.
Points.
So any signs of curvature, we're now not talking about Soundly's picture. So is there any other signs of curvature? Because Soundly's picture we're now not talking about by the person who brought it up.
We're talking about the three-dimensional points he mapped
out. No, piss off to some maths forum. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the world. You can sod off to a maths forum if you want to talk about models in computers. Don't care. That's not what we were talking about. When we were talking about a picture that Soundly took, I was interested. Now, sod off to a maths forum or a computer forum or a CAD forum, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the world. So, Soundly's picture, yeah, I can talk about that. It's perspective. Something ignored in your maths. Moving on. Unless there's any other signs of curvature that aren't curvature, actually perspective.
No curvature. Let's move on.
Excellent. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
I'm going to hold my breath while you do this, okay?
That's why no one's speaking, because you're going to have to hold your breath a long time. We're wanting you to answer the questions.
It's a bit boring.
Move on.
Unorthodox. Any sign of axial rotation?
The Foucault pendulum.
Right, how's that an axial rotation?
Tony's playing Command and Conquer.
Oh, how'd you know that?
I could hit sound effects.
Oh, I'll have to get rid of them.
Tony, come on.
Sorry, so the Foucault pendulum. Anthony, do you want to handle this or do you want me to?
Depends. You're hogging the mic a little bit. Like, why don't we pass it around? Adam, do you want to deal with the Foucault's pendulum?
Really? Okay. I do have a secondary concept with regards to the Foucault pendulum, actually, because it's supposed to be independent of the Earth, but there is actually a connection, so that there would be torsion applied to the bearing at the top as the top section rotates, it will twist above and apply shear forces onto it. So that would imply that it isn't in its own reference frame. That it is tied and affected to.
Adam, is it an Earth's axis? Is it rotating?
But I was just saying that if it was, it wouldn't be able to be declared in its own reference frame and independent of it anyway.
Axis, Adam. It's not scientific proof.
Oh, scientific? Sorry, no.
Oh, no, it's definitely a side. From what I understand, I just put it to unorthodox because it's him that brought it up. So what Adam's saying unorthodox is that given that it's attached to the building or whatever else it's spinning in, it's not in a separate reference frame, proving that the Earth turns underneath. How would you address that?
Oh, this is such a silly misconception, guys.
Yeah, it is.
Whenever you talk about...
don't talk over him, Arwin. Hold on. Arwin, just let him answer.
Okay, so you guys talk about this a lot. The Coriolis effect, right? That's what's going on with the Foucault pendulum. Whenever something is in a perfect lockstep reference frame with the Earth, rotating with the Earth, that means it's in absolute perfection in terms of lockstep. As soon as you move out of lockstep with the Earth's rotation in the slightest degree, at that point, it'll have the Coriolis effect acting on it, right? So just like...
Let him get to the end of his explanation.
Like a helicopter? No, a helicopter isn't. A helicopter's in pretty much lockstep. It's not swinging back and forth. So just like winds are a thing on Earth, you can't. We say the Earth's atmosphere is in lockstep with the Earth. Generally speaking, we're not talking about perfection.
You say that, right? But the atmosphere is not a friction material, is it? It's not like a
hold on.
concrete
You
wall.
haven't addressed. Sorry, Anthony. Adam's point, unorthodox, you're now agreeing with. So you're saying that they are, in fact, one reference frame, as you phrase it, in lockstep. Correct?
Generally speaking.
So generally speaking, there's only one reference frame in lockstep together as one.
Yes.
Then there is no Coriolis effect. You utter moron. So you agree with us. There's no Coriolis effect.
You don't understand that wind can be a thing?
Shut up. I let you finish. So there is no Coriolis effect. If the atmosphere is travelling along with the Earth, then the Earth is not rotating underneath the pendulum.
Just like if I'm moving in a car...
Sorry, not a new example, Dick
down.
Brain. Let's just shut him up. So according to an orthodox, the atmosphere and Earth are, quote, in lockstep, one reference frame, even though the Foucault pendulum is designed specifically and explicitly to show that there are two reference frames, but they're in lockstep according to an orthodox. So you agree with Adam then?
No, it's only in lockstep when it's still sitting in its stationary position.
Right.
At that moment, it's in lockstep at the very bottom. But any point it moves from the bottom, it's not in lockstep.
Oh, I see. So if you're what you're saying is if you're in a helicopter and you're directly hovering above, you're in lockstep. But if you're like a pendulum moving in one direction away from that central position, then you're not in lockstep. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
So like an aeroplane then. So an aeroplane would be moving across the surface that's moving underneath it. Correct?
Definitely not in lockstep, Nathan.
So, like a pendulum, the plane does move, doesn't it?
Yes.
So why don't they have different durations if the Earth is turning underneath these planes? East to west and west to east would be significantly different in terms of their duration if the Earth was actually turning underneath them, separately, as you are now asserting.
From what I understand, there is an effect, and it's pretty demonstrable. I haven't looked into it precisely.
Asking, yes, we understand what you've asserted, unorthodox. I understand what you believe. I'm pointing out the contradiction. You're saying that if you've got movement, as with the pendulum, you have two reference frames. It's not in lockstep if they are moving, like an aeroplane. That being the case, as a plane travels east to west or west to east, the duration would be vastly different because the Earth is turning underneath them. Two reference frames right, unorthodox?
No, not vastly different.
Oh, so now the pendulum's not travelling and giving you the deviation that takes you out of lockstep. It seems we have a glaring contradiction.
I don't see the contradictions. Like
Well,
I said, as far as my understanding goes, airplanes are affected by the Coriolis effect. Something's going on with the Foucault pendulum.
Yeah, shut up.
Same
Don't
thing
tell
is
us how
acting
you
on
don't get
planes.
it. Shut up. Don't tell me how you don't get it. I'll lay it out for you. No problem, moron. Yeah, slow coach. You've either got two reference frames, the Earth turning underneath the reference frame that's not turning, in which case you get a Coriolis effect, and in which case the planes would travel vastly different times, west to east and east to west, if we have two reference frames. Or we don't. It's in lockstep. One reference frame. So which is it? Because it can't be both.
I told you, planes are affected by it.
Oh, so we have different
It's just not
durations
vastly
east-
different.
Oh, really? We have vastly different times east to west, west to east, do we? No, unorthodox. They're about the same. So the Earth doesn't appear to be turning underneath these aeroplanes, my friend.
Like I said, I'm not super familiar with exactly how the Coriolis effect.
Oh, well then shut your stupid mouth. Why are you even
flight
talking?
times and all that
Shut
stuff. I could look at it and analyze it, but I haven't done that.
Your
So I
stupid
can't really...
mouth. Why are you even talking if you're not familiar with how the Coriolis works? Shut up and don't talk. Don't assert your ignorance here. You're really annoying. If you don't know, shut up.
Nathan, it might be wise just to ask him to explain back to you the problem so that you know that he now understands the contradiction.
Why?
Because
We'll spend 20 minutes with his dumb fuckery.
I know, but I want to hear, does he actually understand it yet? I don't think he
doesn't. He's already explained he doesn't. That's why I want to move on. Yeah, we get it now. Unorthodox is dumb and doesn't understand the Coriolis effect, which is why I so effectively took his argument to pieces, and I'm now really annoyed with him as he tells us, I don't really get it, actually. Yeah, that's why you've had your ass handed to you. Shut up in future if you don't get it. Next question. Any evidence of a gas?
Well, at least I got you to understand that when it's at its central position, it's in lockstep, and as soon as it moves away,
you didn't get us to
understand that.
He doesn't get it.
You didn't get us to understand anything.
Yeah, I don't want to explain the contradiction.
He repeated it back, so I'd argue he did understand it.
I understand it implicitly, you stupid moron. You think the Earth and the atmosphere are in lockstep, except under special circumstances when it doesn't meet your argument standards, which is to say that they're not in lockstep, and you have a Coriolis effect. If they're in lockstep, no Coriolis. If they are not in lockstep, Coriolis. You can't have it both ways. If you don't get this after the 4th time of me explaining it to you, I'm just going to move on. Try listening to the show back.
It's such a dishonest argument. Like, you know, wind is a thing. Like, you're not telling me that you can't intellectually distinguish between the Earth moving with the atmosphere and wind.
Well, unorthodox.
Don't tell me you can't understand.
Are you not understanding?
I don't believe you.
You said yourself the helicopter hovering above Earth. That's in lockstep with the Earth, right? So it's the same reference frame. That's why there's no Coriolis.
Keyword.
It's a lot closer than an airplane. It's not. If you analyze it, I'm sure it wouldn't be perfectly. I'm sure there's a very
so
very
you're
small
saying that that's the
Coriolis
same
effect.
reference frame, but yet the pendulum that's actually attached to Earth is a different reference frame because it's moving. That's
Once
what
it
you're trying
moves
to
from
get
the
us to
central
understand.
position, once it moves from the central position, just like if you're on a merry-go-round and you have a stick facing from you in the center out towards the edge, as soon as you move it a little bit, it's moving in reference to
I'll ask
the
one question.
Earth.
I'll ask a
But
question, and if I
it's
get the
still
wrong
when
answer,
it's
I want
not.
to move on.
It's generally moving
I'll ask you
around
a
the
question,
merry-go-round,
unorthodox.
but if you wiggle it, it's not.
I'm
in
sick of
perfect
your word
lockstep.
salad. Right, I'll ask you a question. If you can give me the right answer, fine, we'll continue the discussion. If you can't, we'll move on. What is the Coriolis force?
F equals omega squared. What is it? R divided by M.
No.
I forget the two forms, but I could get it for you if you want me to.
No. Describe it in literal terms. You're about to give an example with a roundabout. Explain in your example what force is experienced.
It's just the momentum of the object. As you're moving on a circular path, your momentum wants to keep going in one direction while the Earth rotates underneath you if you're moving. So it's your momentum.
Thank you. So something travels through the second reference frame and the roundabout continues to rotate underneath, correct?
Say that again?
So you're on a roundabout, you throw a ball as the roundabout turns, the ball goes in a straight line, and the roundabout continues to rotate underneath, correct?
Yes.
Right. So a plane travels through the air, and the Earth continues to rotate underneath, correct?
From what I hear, I believe you're correct.
Well, that doesn't happen. Do you not get it? The planes don't take different durations west to east and east to west. The Earth isn't turning underneath them.
As a matter of fact,
what is the Coriolis? Go ahead.
Don't ask me a question. You see, we've got to the stage again, and now he's asking me something. So, I've explained this contradiction to you now 5 times.
No, you haven't backed it up with anything, Nathan. You haven't shown what the Coriolis effect says it's going to be versus what it's going to be.
Listen,
you haven't
dickhead,
shown any evidence.
I'm not making the assertion.
Show some evidence for what you're saying. What is it supposed to be
I don't need
versus
to
what
back
it really
anything.
is?
I'm not making any assertion. You assert Coriolis. You. I asked.
Talking about a Foucault pendulum, I'm not applying it to everything in the world. If you want to go out and extrapolate to airplanes, that's your onus is on you to explain how it works in that scenario and how it should be off. I didn't bring up airplanes, you did.
Yeah, it's axial rotation of the Earth. You brought up the Foucault pendulum, which is designed to demonstrate 2 separate reference frames. If we are to accept the conclusion given to us by that pendulum, then the planes would take different durations, but they don't.
Prove it.
And what I was going to say before I got dropped was
I'm so close to kicking you out. What do you mean prove it? You're telling me that you can get up in a plane, hover, and the Earth just carries on underneath you when you've told us that helicopters don't suffer this effect with your double-speak nonsense?
No, prove to me that the flight times are exactly the same.
I give up. Someone help me out.
They aren't exactly the same, but I've taken flights where the duration for going from west to east is actually less than going from east to west, which doesn't make any sense.
Is that with the wind or against it?
Sorry, we're talking about Earth turn, for the love of God.
I mean, there's so much more here that's complicating the situation. Like Alan B said, wind, the jet streams, all this other stuff that is going on, and you're trying to isolate this tiny little thing.
And you know what? I used to work at an airport, and when I've asked the pilot, how does that happen? Like, how is it that you can get to, like, I can get from L.A. to New York faster than New York to L.A., and they say, yeah, the jet stream. But they've never said, oh, because of the Earth curve or the Earth rotation. I'm sorry. Okay.
So this
I'm at least glad I got you to understand that.
This Foucault pendulum does not
prove... You
prove...
just debunked yourself.
Sorry, this Foucault pendulum doesn't prove the Earth is turning. In any way, shape or form, it leaves you with a contradiction.
No, I don't see the contradiction. I'm at least glad I got you to understand the difference in movement
I'll try
generally.
for a 6th time. Let's shut him up. This stupid moron who's doing my head in. Yeah, the contradiction is as follows. The Foucault pendulum suggests that you have 2 reference frames. 2. One that turns underneath the other. Well, if that's true, you'd have the Earth turning underneath helicopters, or aeroplanes, or anything that's not attached to the ground.
No, that's not true at all.
Oh, well, that's what you have if you've got 2 reference frames. That's why you get deviation. That is, by definition, the Coriolis effect.
No, imagine you're...
Yeah, we got you to define it, not no. Yes, you throw a ball on a roundabout, the roundabout continues to turn underneath. That is the Coriolis effect.
So, unorthodox, what's the difference between the pendulum and the plane?
Oh my God! I mean, a list of things. One, it has an engine. Two, it's involved with air currents. I mean, those are the two major ones.
I don't mean it in that context, and you know I don't.
Are you talking about with the helicopter?
If you're saying that the helicopters and the planes are moving with the Earth's atmosphere, how is that different with the Foucault's pendulum that you claim that Earth spins underneath it, and that it shows the Earth turn?
Okay, I'll tell you. It take just a second. It has to imagine it. I gotta take advantage of my shit. My mind here for a second. Okay, so imagine you're on a sphere. Now extend a pole straight up. Okay.
Sorry, no.
Your helicopter's on the end of the pole.
No. You're
As
not
long
gonna
as
affirm
it's
no.
rotating in
Stop.
perfection with the globe
Shut,
in
what
that
part
manner.
of no don't you get?
It works.
No, you will not start your example with imagine you're on a bloody sphere. You're not here to affirm the consequent. You're not here to beg the question. Don't start your example with let's all imagine we're on a sphere that's got an axis that's rotating. No!
How are we going to talk about the Coriolis effect and the differences if we're not talking about a sphere?
You'll show
That's
me.
exactly what we're talking
You'll
about.
show me something that actually demonstrates an effect of the Coriolis. Now, you're saying the pendulum shows that. Well, if it does, the planes would demonstrate the same effect, and they don't.
That's why I'm asking for the difference. What's the difference between a pendulum with the Earth spinning under it and a plane with the Earth not spinning under it because it's in a fixed rotation point? Why is there a difference between the two?
Because one is essentially in almost perfect lockstep with the Earth, the helicopter. The other one, the plane, is obviously not. It's traveling along the surface in any direction, north, south, east, or west. The helicopter isn't traveling north, south, east, or
I've got to point it out
west.
to you again, unorthodox. You can't have one and the other. It's not simultaneously capable of being in lockstep under circumstances and not in lockstep under other circumstances. It's either we have the Coriolis effect or we don't.
We do, as the Foucault pendulum shows.
Excellent. So the planes take different durations east to west and west to east as the Earth turns underneath, then, unorthodox?
According to Chocolate Sand, yes.
No, they don't. He's just pointed out that you get slower durations when you should have the Earth turning towards you, speeding up your journey vastly.
Exactly, unorthodox. Don't try to mistake my point, brother. Don't try that. You know exactly what I was trying to say.
But this nonsense.
I'm
does
at
not
least
prove
thankful
the
that
Earth
you guys
turns.
seem to understand the difference.
Yeah,
at least
we understand
you
it.
did
You
before
don't.
perfect lockstep versus general motion.
You don't. That's the point. That's the contradiction. You don't have a circumstance where you have perfect lockstep and then a separate set of circumstances when you don't. You either have the Coriolis effect or you don't. That's the essence of the contradiction.
Nathan, as soon as it moves out of perfect lockstep, then the Coriolis effect acts. Like if you have a swinging pendulum.
Well, Dick Brain, let's just lay it out for you. Again, you can't have it both ways.
Directly
You can't have it
parallel with
both
gravity.
ways. You
At
cannot
that moment,
have...
there is no Coriolis effect. As soon as it moves out from that position...
You can't have it both ways. You can't have a circumstance where you do have it, to make your example with the Foucault pendulum when asked if the Earth turns, and then have it not happening when the planes take off and leave the ground into the separate reference frame that apparently the pendulum proves. You cannot have both.
You're wrong about the planes.
Oh, right.
It does have an
am I?
effect on planes.
Oh, right.
Tell us
So-
how is
Same way it does as the Foucault pendulum. It's acting a force that's derived from an equation that's shown to be proven. That
Sorry.
you can do in a
That's
laboratory.
what I was
you
trying to
can
get
do
in
with
with.
the Foucault
Sorry,
pendulum. I could set
sorry,
up a
say
Foucault
again.
pendulum and
Sorry,
derive the
you're
equation
coming
for
to a
you
force.
if you want me to.
Sorry, unorthodox. You said the word force. So there is a force that this equation describes, correct?
A pseudo force, yes, the momentum.
Pseudo.
We know what
force.
pseudo
Pseudo
means,
force.
right?
Wow.
So
We got a new invention.
Good word, brother.
why would it be labelled a pseudo force?
Because it's the momentum and it helps your intellectual understanding of the situation.
No, it's not momentum.
No.
It has nothing to do with momentum. So
I
you're
think
wrong.
it's because
you
it's
don't
based on
understand Coriolis.
pseudoscience.
Why would it be labelled a pseudo force?
I just told you because it's your momentum. It's
I'll
not.
say it again. You're a moron and incorrect.
Nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh, Nathan.
Yeah, so this force, how strong is this force?
Well, if you have a car, so I did this example the other day, okay? So if you have a car traveling at 100 miles per hour, I'm sorry. So I've got a car here traveling on a track that is 1 mile. It's a 1 mile arc, okay, and it's traveling at let's see here. It's traveling at 100 miles per hour. Okay, 1 mile track, 100 miles per hour. The force is roughly 12.6% of gravity. Once you extend that to a 100-mile radius,
sorry, I've got to stop you there, moron. So I asked the question, why would it be labelled a pseudo force? And you go into an explanation about actual forces, clearly demonstrating to everybody on the panel and everybody in the audience that you don't understand the difference. You think there's an actual force at play here, don't you, Unorthodox?
I just told you it's momentum.
No, I'll say it for the third time. You're wrong. And my question, which you don't know the answer to, why would it be labelled a pseudo-force, would tell you why you're wrong, but Dunning-Kruger dictates that you keep arguing with me. Your own ignorance doesn't stop you. You don't go and Google search it. You just keep asserting that there's examples with cars and forces that are equivalent, when they're not, because you're a bonehead.
Nathan, I would argue that, you know, the 100,000 people that came before you and analyzed this were correct, and perhaps you're wrong.
Yeah, I don't care about the 100,000 appeal. That's another fallacy. Appeal to consensus fallacy, that's called. You and me are talking about this. I've asked you 3 times why they'd call it a pseudo-force. You keep giving us examples of actual forces, rather than actually
What does it matter? What does it matter, Nathan?
It's critical.
Why does it...
Yeah, you don't know, do you, moron?
No, why does that matter?
Yeah, why does it matter that you don't know? Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know how important it is or isn't, and you're asking me. You're the one using this as an example of axial rotation.
No, you're the one who brought up pseudo-force. What is the distinction here? Why is that a problem?
Well, maybe it'd be wise to find that out before we make assertions that pendulums prove the Earth's spin.
No, I don't think there's a problem. You're the one that's asserting that there's a problem with it being a pseudo-force.
So? Well, go away and think about how there's no problem elsewhere then. Go away and think you've got no issue. Ignore everything we say, don't do any research, and just tell yourself that you're right. Because that's a job well done, moron.
You brought it up, Nathan. If you can't explain why that's a problem, then, you know, there's a hole in your story
simultaneously
here.
And over again. Probably this is the 6th time, I believe, that I've explained it to you. There's a glaring contradiction. You can't have the atmosphere in lockstep and not in lockstep under certain circumstances. It's either subject to the Coriolis effect because the Earth is turning underneath, or it's not. You want it to be both. That is
We're talking about the pseudo-force.
Oh, he's still talking. That is the essence of the contradiction, you buffoon.
Oh, you said there was a problem with labeling it a pseudo-force.
No, that's not a problem. That's just what it's called, and I'm asking you why it would be called that. And every time I do, you take us to actual forces.
No, I haven't taken you to actual forces. I've taken you to
a car travelling around a track at 100 miles an hour with a mathematical equation for the force that it can experience. That's not taking us to actual forces, is it, you moron? Yeah, it is. You're a dick and stupid, and I enjoy humiliating you.
Okay, let me walk you through this. It won't take just a second. I think we can all understand why it's a pseudo.
Don't walk me through anything. You're a stupid muppet. I am becoming more stupid just by having this conversation with you. So please, for the love of God, don't try and walk me through anything ever again, ever.
Unorthodox.
Well, you seem to got it sometime.
There's no pseudo-force. There is only force, and there's no force. Pseudo-force is just ridiculous.
You know, if you've got a girlfriend, if you've got a real-life girlfriend, then you have a girlfriend. But if we use the term, it's a pseudo-girlfriend, what does that mean?
Well, that's another common misconception and distraction. That's not the same thing in physics, okay?
What is a pseudo-girlfriend in this context?
There is no context that is equivalent in this situation.
Yeah, it's just humiliating. You don't even know how badly you're being humiliated right now, which is the best.
There's not. Yeah, I mean, you
keep telling me, the panel and the audience, that this is a false equivalency because you don't know why it's relevant.
Describe? Is that not a common practice in science?
You don't know why this is even relevant.
Gravity. You know why? Because it's not real.
No, Arwin, don't tell him the answer. So, girlfriend, real thing. Pseudo-girlfriend, what's a pseudo-girlfriend?
Science, different definition from general life.
So in science, what's the difference between a force and a pseudo-force?
Well, pseudo force is momentum, and it depends on the situation. In this case, we're talking about momentum.
Right.
So that's the difference.
We're not.
One's momentum, the other is actually.
I said this 3 times.
Something moving.
He's deaf. He's clearly deaf.
Imperfect.
I said this 3 times. I'll say it again. Just maybe get a pen and write it down this time. We are not talking about momentum.
So
that's
again,
what centrifugal force is. That's what we're talking about.
We're talking about the Coriolis effect. I mean, literally,
yes.
Are you now going to strawman us that we've been talking about a different subject this entire time? We're not that slow. We are not as dumb as you. Don't assume our stupidity level is the same as yours. We do know what we're talking about. You've already confessed on several occasions you haven't got the vaguest notion what you're even on about.
Back to this pseudo force. What's the difference between a pseudo force and a force in science?
In this situation, a pseudo force is your momentum, and an actual force is F equals ma.
Right, one sounds
that's an example. That's not an explanation. That's an example, not an explanation.
Yeah, what
I would say the example explains it.
No,
if I said
it's an example, it doesn't explain it.
If I said what's the difference between hot and cold, you would say you'd get burnt with hot, and then cold makes you shiver, right? What's the difference between a force and a pseudo force in science? If it's got its own unique interpretation, what is the difference?
I don't know how else to explain it to you besides what we've already said.
We got the audience and panel giving him the answer right now.
What's the answer?
I think the fact that you've missed that from both the chat and Alan in the Hangout makes it even more priceless.
I know what it is. I don't know the exact definition from Webster. Okay, I'm not Google here.
So why don't you help yourself out and maybe Google it? Like for a second, like it'll take you a second. Just Google it so you know what you're talking about. Jesus Christ!
Choco, if you're arguing against it, you should know equally.
Well, no, he's trying to redefine pseudo force in this context, and I want him to explain the difference.
Yeah, from actual interaction between objects. Pseudo forces are not interactions.
It's a fictitious force.
No, it's not.
That's what it says.
It says it clearly in the definition that I'm looking at. It says fictitious.
Right, so let's get unorthodox to get a definition in science of pseudo force.
Hold on, Anthony. Sorry to interrupt you, Anthony. Just because of that little back and forth, just so it doesn't go unnoticed. Just repeat what you just said to Alan again, if you don't mind, Chocolate.
That it's a fictitious force.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it took me 2 seconds to look that up. Even though I didn't have to, because I know what the word pseudo means.
So how does that help our understanding of what's going on?
Because you're talking about an imaginary force, man.
No, you don't understand the words in the context that they're being used.
So exactly.
Okay. I don't understand what the word fictitious means.
No, hang on. Explain the difference between a force
context. You got to understand what it means first.
Tony, real forces are those that arise from actual interaction between objects.
Right, so what's a pseudo force?
Is not the result of interaction between objects that arise due to the change of frame of reference.
So can you give it an example of one?
So Alan, so essentially, to have this force, there must be a change of reference frame.
It's interaction between objects, Nathan.
Yeah.
Right, so can you give us an example where there's a force but there's no interaction between the objects?
The Coriolis force, what we were just talking about. And I don't really understand how bringing some extremely tight definition from basically mathematics and physics that incorporates your understanding of reference frames and all these other things is going to help you guys understand this. You are completely misunderstanding everything in relationship to it. So I don't think going back to the basics where it comes from is going to help you. That's going to hurt you because you don't understand it. I'm trying to take it to something that's real world.
Fair enough.
So let's
like
make
a car traveling on an
arc. Let's make it real world.
Yeah.
Let's make it real world. Can you give us an example where there is a pseudo force that results in not an interaction between two objects that we can observe? Where would this apply?
A merry-go-round. If you have a ball on a merry-go-round, at the very tip, as it's spinning, it's going to want to go out, straight out. If you draw a circle and you have a right angle at the top in the direction of rotation, that is the direction that the ball wants to move.
Yeah. So
Right.
where's
Like if
the
you
force?
draw a circle with your mind, top right corner, arrow going to the top right.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
but they
rotating in that
describe-
direction.
Yeah, okay.
The
we got it.
momentum of
We
the
got it.
object
We
wants
got
to
it. You
keep
don't need to
going
say
in
it
that
4 more
direction.
times. We got it. We understand. So where's the force?
What about
It's acting inward towards the center of the circle.
Oh,
What
again.
about
So you
centrifugal
believe there's a
orthodox?
force moving the ball inwards?
Yes, by friction.
No, you stupid moron. That's the point. There's no force curving the ball. It's an apparent deflection because you turn underneath the ball that carries on in a straight line. So from your vantage point, it appears to be curving, even though it's not. Hence, apparent force. No force. Fictitious force. Idiot.
It appears to be curving even though it's...
Don't repeat back what I've just told you and broken down after the last 40 minutes, like you actually understood it the whole time. You arrogant little prick.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah, no force,
going nowhere
moron.
with this.
Yeah, we babied you through it. Don't repeat it back like you understood it the whole time. Yeah, so no force. Pseudo-force. Apparent deviation. Now, that apparent deviation occurs because the roundabout turns underneath. So, ipso facto, if we have an Coriolis effect, the Earth turns underneath the planes and helicopters and balls that are no longer attached to that reference frame. Pity we don't see any of those effects, though, eh?
No, Foucault pendulum isn't showing those effects at all.
Oh, it's not. Even though
Exactly,
that's the
that's
one
our
thing that's
point.
supposed to be. I love it. So you don't even understand your own example.
Wow.
You're saying it
Yeah.
doesn't show those effects. That's the one thing that is supposed to be showing those
After
effects,
played
you
yourself.
bonehead.
Congratulations.
The best
You
jokes
are,
are the
again, the dumbest person to have ever frequented this panel.
So what's going on with the Foucault pendulum?
Who cares? It's your example, you stupid muppet. Don't ask me to explain your example. We're on the second housekeeping question. It's taken 45 minutes.
It's just following its pattern. It's just following the momentum. It's following a
This is
grid
what happens when
pattern
you've got
as
glow
it
beds
goes.
on.
It always does. There is no other thing affecting
It rotates. It's not going
Only-
back and forth in a
yeah,
straight line
yeah,
like
but
you
it-
started the motion.
But it doesn't rotate if you start out just swinging it straight. Only if you deviate. Then the whole thing starts to form like a mandala. Okay? It all depends on what momentum it gets.
This is
That's
what's
the only
known
thing
as
that's there. The
this
rest
is
all
what's known
just
as
imagination.
pseudoscience. It's where you believe shit that's not capable of actually being proven to be true.
We're talking about a real world example, guys. You can do it in
doesn't
your
do what
living
you're saying
room.
it does.
Unorthodox.
You can do it in your freaking living room
what?
yourself. It's
Hold on,
very,
hold on. Do
very,
what?
very easy. Don't sit there and tell me it's not real
Do what?
when you can do it in your living room.
Do what? The purpose of
It's
the
not
Foucault
real
pendulum
in
is to
relation
demonstrate
to
that there's
Earth
two
unorthodox.
reference
That's what
frames.
you're not understanding.
Do what?
Unorthodox.
The
Can I ask a
purpose
question?
is to demonstrate two reference frames. That's what it's doing. So when you say you can do it in your bedroom, what? Prove there's two reference frames, only to then get on a plane and say to the stewardess, oh, this will take longer, right? I've proved with a pendulum that Earth turns underneath us after we take off.
Unorthodox. I've got a question.
Sure, Alan.
In Newton mechanics, is centrifugal force considered a pseudo force?
Who
Yeah.
gives a crap? Shut up, Alan. This is a housekeeping question about axial
No,
rotation.
Alan's question's good. Alan's
Wait,
question's
no,
good.
does it prove axial rotation?
I'm just asking a question.
No, Nathan, let's go with it. Is centrifugal force an actual force or not? Unorthodox.
Centripetal force, when we're talking about a rotating reference frame, I'm sure you guys
Yes or no?
really understand
Yes
the
or
reference
no?
frame and all this, how it moves in lockstep. But
Is centrifugal force an actual force or is it a pseudo force?
centrifugal force is a pseudo force in the in what
No,
we're talking about.
moron. It's an actual force.
I can't believe this.
What?
I've got
Centri-
two questions from housekeeping. This is question 2.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
No, it is. It is
Centrifugal
question 2.
force.
Centrifugal
actual
force is an
force.
example of a pseudo force. They're equal and opposite. Like
Right,
if you have
well,
a ball on a
you got it
string
wrong,
and you're
dude.
swinging it around, there's one force acting inward, right? centripetal force, and then there's centrifugal force, which is the force outward.
Well, you got it wrong. It's the wrong way round.
No, I got Google up right here.
Yeah. So read what it says about centrifugal.
The example I've got is the centrifugal force is an example of a pseudo force. That's what I'm looking at.
Let's get that on screen and let's see is that true. Centrifugal.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other. They're equal and opposite. It's the exact same equation.
Just present it.
Hold on.
Let's see it.
You've just read out a quote. I want to see that on screen.
Yeah, I want to see it too.
It's on my iPad.
Let's have a look. Put it on camera.
Okay, well, hold on. You want to see it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, of course we want to see it.
Okay, hold on. Let me get in some light here.
Because you're mistaking centrifugal as centripetal.
Yeah, Unorthodox, I think, and I had
this conversation
once before where he tried to argue that there was.
This is like Jimmy. Do you remember when Jimmy read from a citation and he added shit that wasn't there? Unorthodox is doing that right now. He's claiming a citation that is not real.
That's not true. Hold on, I'll show you live off my iPad.
Let's go on then, screen share.
I don't have a screen share. I'm gonna have to show you my iPad. I've got it pulled up on my iPad. I got this up on my laptop.
Unorthodox.
Travis,
can you hear me?
You have to look at my screen.
Travis, you're a bit low.
Yeah, your screen's.
Well, I don't know how to raise my volume. Unorthodox.
Right here.
Can you hear me real quick?
Hold on, let me highlight this.
Perhaps if you stop moving, then the camera can actually focus.
I know. I was highlighting it first.
Nathan, are we only on question 2?
It's too blurry. Can you just read it? Read that highlighted line.
It says, this is why centrifugal force a pseudo force. A pseudo force, a physically apparent but non-existent force felt by an observer in a non-inertial frame. Newton's laws of motion hold true with such a reference frame only if the existence of such a force is presumed.
No, it isn't an
inertial. The centrifugal force is an example of a pseudo force.
No,
right there. You can pause it and you can see. I'm not making this up.
Right,
and
so
it doesn't really.
Can you copy and paste the link?
Hold on, stop. Just tell us where it's from. Where's the reference from?
This is from dictionary.com under pseudo force. It's like an example of a pseudo force. It's dictionary.com.
Let's look it up.
Well, that was a lovely aside. Did it prove axial rotation? Did we get any further in the housekeeping? Did it help?
No, hang on. Let's see whether he's got it right. I think he's misquoting it intentionally to make himself sound correct.
I'm not misquoting it. It's right there. I just showed it to you.
No, we can't read it though. It was blurred.
I read it. I read it enough to say I saw the title. The title of that paragraph was why it is a pseudo force, right?
Yes.
Centrifugal force in a non-inertial reference frame isn't centrifugal force. If it's non-inertial, it's not moving. So it can't. There's no force there if it's not moving. It has to be in a moving reference frame. Otherwise, you're not going to get the force. But it's not a pseudo force. That's centripetal.
No, you got it backwards.
No, I don't. You've got it
backwards.
But
it really doesn't matter. What matters is that they're both there. It doesn't matter what name you give to one or the other. What matters is the concepts and ideas and math behind it and the experiments behind it.
Right, I'm sharing my screen, Nathan. Let's get it on and let's get this point addressed because he's got this completely wrong. So dictionary.com, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck's sake. It's because I'm too busy playing the game.
It's got red pill philosophy, something or other.
Man, that guy has got such a punchable face. He really does. That mustache.
You're just associating that because he does man hits woman, woman hits man.
Was it being
Right, so listen, look at my screen. Tell me if I'm on the right page. Dictionary.com, centrifugal force. An outward force, not a pseudo force, an outward force on a body rotating about an axis, assumed equal and opposite to the centripetal force, postulated to account for the phenomena seen by an observer in the rotating body. You gave an example that was non-inertial reference frames and a pseudo force. This is talking about a centrifugal being an outward force on a rotating body. It's the exact opposite of what you defined it as before. So I want the
No, I was talking about the momentum. Remember the momentum?
I don't care. You read from
That's exactly what this is.
You read from dictionary.com, and when I look it up, it doesn't do what you say.
Scroll down. Scroll down. It's the next. It's down a little bit. Scroll down.
Centrifugal force.
Scroll down. Right there. Right there. Centrifugal force in science, right there, Anthony.
A fictitious force that can be thought of as acting outwards on anybody that rotates or moves along a
Oh, brilliant.
It does say it. How can it say a fictitious force there and then say centrifugal force is not? Oh, it does say it.
Tony, that were fantastic.
So hang on a minute. Someone's going to have to tell me how this is wrong, right? Because I've always understood centrifugal to be a force.
What the hell is going on? So Anthony misinterprets something that's completely off topic because it's.
Can I get a concession, Anthony?
Concession.
No,
what about the concession that the Foucault pendulum has a direct contradiction when attempting to prove that the Earth spins in the form of non-inertial reference frames only?
Yeah, no. We all know when's a thing, right?
Sorry.
Is
that a concession?
Real quick.
Hold on, you were just asking for a concession on this non-point.
Yeah, here you go. Here you go. Here's an example right here. The circular arc
this is a straw man.
Right here.
This is a red herring.
That's the centrifugal force.
Stop it. What the hell is going on? This is a red herring. So rather than admitting that you've got a glaring contradiction in your example with the Foucault pendulum, you've taken on Anthony onto this side route. He's bit, even though I said I didn't want to do it. And now you're asking him for a concession. The question was about axial rotation. You offered up a glaring contradiction in the form of Coriolis. Now you're talking over me. Why aren't you conceding? Why are you demanding a concession on this non-point when the original question was about axial rotation? And now you're talking all over me, aren't you?
Yeah, but you can't admit that I'm not trying to deceive you here, and that's actually what it says.
Sorry, that's a non-point. So we're gonna stay on this non-point. So you're gonna talk non-stop over me about this non-point that you want Anthony to concede. That's taken up about 3 or 4 minutes of the show, even though we've spent 45 minutes on one housekeeping question that you have not conceded. But after 2 minutes and a misinterpretation about a non-topical subject, you want Anthony to make you a concession about this point that means nothing in regards to axial rotation and the Coriolis effect example with the Foucault pendulum. That's what you want after 40 minutes.
Yep.
Right, hang on. Can I... Let me just push this one step further.
Anthony, you bit on this, and now he's demanding concession from you after 40 minutes.
I'm not asking you to concede that gravity exists. I'm just asking you to concede that you were wrong.
Guys, stop a sec. You asked for a concession, right? I will concede that it does appear to be defined that way when you look it up. However,
why are you doing this? This is a non-point. This is. Alan's loving this. Well done, Anthony. So you're giving a concession.
Intellectual honesty,
so 40 minutes of this garbage. 40 minutes, and at the end of the show, we get a concession from Anthony.
Hang on a minute. It's conditional.
Yeah, I'm sure you're loving this, Alan. Absolutely loving it.
Hang on a sec.
God forbid he be honest, Nathan.
Yeah, now Anthony's pride's going to get in the way while he goes on and on about his concession about this non-point that we didn't argue about for 40 minutes.
Please. Now, unorthodox. Force, according to science and according to mathematics, force equals mass times acceleration. We see a mass that gets accelerated away from the vertical. How is that? If you're going to argue that centrifugal force is a fictitious force, it does satisfy the definition of F equals ma, does it not?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, it does. That's why it's called a pseudo force, because it meets that criteria.
No, accept this crap. Can't quite believe that's just happened after 40 minutes of hard work, getting to the point where we go over and over and over and over and over the exact same contradiction, only for them to get a minor point in at the end, and Anthony want to labour it indefinitely and concede indefinitely and talk about that for the last part of the show. Unbelievable. So yeah, no concession that Coriolis effect does not in any way, shape or form prove that we have an axial rotation. Second question in the housekeeping. But it is time to run out, so we've run out of time on the live show. With that, I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience who've tuned into this live debate, and of course a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you're watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 stream, you will be privy to the after show, which will continue in a moment, so stay tuned for that. Once again, a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!